Hi friends, Ashley Berges back today, and it is very uncertain times for all of us. Unprecedented times. And when we're in uncertainty and fear, we have a tendency of going back into our old ways, our old patterns, and many of these are unhealthy cycles. Some of you might have gotten back with your ex in just the last few days. Some may be still feeling good on cloud nine, and others of you, well, you're wondering why you made this bad decision. In today's video, I'm going to go through the reasons why we go back to those unhealthy cycles, we go back into those toxic relationships in times of change, and I'm also going to tell you ways that you can overcome it. So let's begin. Unhealthy cycles are things that we become accustomed to. We've dealt with it our entire life. It's kind of been the basis of our reality since we were very young. And because of that, we gravitate back to those unhealthy cycles because it's our norm, right? Our norm doesn't have to be healthy. And in these uncertain times, especially what we're dealing with the world right now, there's fear. There's a lot of unknown, and we like to go back to what we know. And when we go back to these unhealthy cycles and patterns, we're usually going back to some of these toxic relationships in our life that we've let go, but now we're right back in it. So let's discuss why we do that. The first reason we go back to unhealthy cycles and patterns is because we're lonely. Many of us right now are experiencing fear. It's extremely quiet. We are at home and shelter in place, and it's an experience that we've never experienced before, okay? And that loneliness makes us want to pick up the phone, right? Call that ex, call that person, so that you have something to entertain you, you have somebody to talk to, and it's something that you know. But you shouldn't be drinking poison just because you're thirsty, right? And that's what happens. We go after anything so we're not alone. And that's one of the biggest reasons we find ourselves in unhealthy cycles over and over again, even when it's with different people or the same people, because we're lonely. And that fear of the unknown makes us go back because at least we had that. We know what we got over here, right? And we're fearful that we're not going to get something else, right? We're scared. A lot of times because we've been manipulated by that person to believe that we're never going to get anything better, that this is the best we're ever going to get, and we better deal with it. And so when we get lonely, we start creating different realities in our head, right? Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I blew it out of proportion. Maybe I'm the problem. And so that loneliness is the real reason why we begin to think about, let's try it again, give it another shot. So if you're going down that path right now, stop, put the phone up, watch the rest of this video. The second reason we go back is because we're bored. We're bored. We want to be entertained, right? A lot of us have been in these toxic relationships. They were fun, they were exciting, they were dramatic, they were entertaining. And so we figure out, let's call our ex. It's the prescription so that we're not bored. And I get why you do that. But remember how toxic the drama was. Okay, begin to go back in that reality and really look at what really happened in the relationship, okay? When we get bored, we start making things to be better than they are, okay? And we start looking for this entertainment factor, okay? And for many of us, the entertainment is the toxicity and the drama, okay? All of that stuff is not going to help us in the long run. All that's going to take us further and further away from who we really are, right? And remember how it was last time. It might have been entertaining in the beginning, but it got sickening later on, right? And it started strangling you and sucking out your will to live. And that's one of the reasons why you left the relationship, okay? So really think about this before picking up that phone. The next reason why we go back is because of that fear factor. Like I was talking about a little bit earlier, that feeling that we're never going to find someone else, that we're never going to fall in love, we're never going to have a relationship, nobody's going to ever understand us, we're going to be this island left alone, you know, we start feeling that way. A lot of it's manipulation, right, from the ex, even gaslighting. You're not good enough, no one's going to love you, I'm the only one that can deal with you, you have all these problems. And so we go back believing that stuff, right, that fear that we're not going to make it on our own, the fear that nobody's going to see our value. And there might have been a glimpse of some sort of value that our ex saw when they were completely lucid, right? That we're like, you know what? Yeah, okay, I'm going to go back to that. And so I really want you to think about that because fear, right? Fear is not real. We create fear based on different types of analysis. A lot of time our fear is based on future thinking, right? We start creating this future, like nobody's going to love us. We're going to live on this world on our own. We're never going to have a significant other, never get married, never have kids, whatever that looks like. And so I want you to really slow down and realize how much future thinking are you doing right now? And I know that a lot of us are doing it because the state of the world, this is unprecedented. The fear of being sick, the fear of getting sick, the fear of losing your job. The list goes on. On top of that, we begin to create this fear factor of what's going to happen in our love life in our future. So I want you to begin to catch that. When you go into that fear factor and you start questioning what's going to happen to you, I want you to stop thinking that way. Because as you know, when we create the future in our mind, it doesn't happen that way. Okay, so this is just ways of getting you off track and ways of not living your life. Because when we go into that future thinking, I mean, it's like we're watching TV. We're on the sidelines of life. We're not being mindful and we're not being in the moment and we're not creating our reality as we should. We're actually over here somewhere creating a false reality and then actually using that false reality to get us back into these toxic cycles that cause that pattern again, and it causes us to even lose our identity even more. The next reason we go back is that false hope that we've created in the mind. Wow, false hope. Well, if I wouldn't have done that, then she wouldn't have done that. Maybe I was guilty because I remember saying this that time, and if I could take that back, maybe we'd be fine, okay? We start internalizing things. We start creating this false hope. This time it'll be better, okay? This time we're going to make it work. And I understand false hope, but false hope is what gets us into a lot of pitfalls, right? That false hope is also our self-destructive side. Okay, we are self-destructing at that point. And these relationships that are toxic, right, is our self-destruction. We're not actually doing it to ourselves, like we're not drinking ourselves to death or eating ourselves to death or doing drugs to an extent. Instead, we've actually found someone else that can be our destruction, right? So it's not really us doing it to us, it's them doing it to us, but that's not really true because we actually sought them out. And now at this time, we're actually finding them again and reconnecting again to do this whole song and dance again. So think about that. When you're in the position of false hope, why are you manipulating your own mind? Why are you manipulating your own self to go back into this toxic cycle? Have you not learned enough from it before? And there's a possibility that you have to experience it one more time to really realize how toxic it truly is. And if that's the case, you might have to go down this path. And that's fine. But I want you to begin to realize and look at it in the reality of what it is. Not in the mind constructs, not in the future thinking, right? Not in that false hope. Because again, false hope is actually you manipulating yourself. And last but not least, you turn the sword inward. I think many of you have been in toxic cycles for a very long time. And if you can remember some of the old arguments or past fights where somebody was putting you down, calling you names, telling you how you're a horrible person and nobody's ever going to love you. And instead of fighting them on that level, you begin to turn the sword inward, where you begin to tell yourself, maybe I am a horrible person, maybe I am a bad person, because you've heard it so much in this relationship, it's got to be real. Okay, that happened the last go-around. So there you are in the situation that you're in right now. There's a lot of fear, there's a lot of uncertainty. And you pick up that phone to try to call your ex and you get back with them. And it's interesting how you get ready for that call, right? Or you're getting ready to get back. And the problem is that you're not seeing the reality. Just like in the arguments, it was easier to turn the sword inward. And why? Because I think subconsciously you realize that the other person was not going to change. So it's easier for us to basically lambast ourselves and try to figure out how to change or shift or morph to get that person to love you and treat you right. And so you try every single different angle, always coming up short. That's what a toxic relationship is, okay? And so I want you to think about that. When you're turning the sword inward and thinking about all the things that you did that possibly led to the demise of the relationship, I need you to begin to see it really clearly for real. You're doing that because it's easier to see the reality of the situation. And I'm not saying that people can't change, but if people don't want to change, they're not going to change. Only you can change you. Okay, you can't change them. And so I want you to think about that. If you've been told how horrible of a person you are and you started believing it, okay, that means that one, you don't know your identity. you don't know your value, okay? And you're believing someone else telling you how horrible you are. And we do that because it's easier than dealing with the fact that this relationship isn't going to work, okay? So think about it. Sit back. Is there something that you're missing about you that would take you back into this battlefield? Okay, and I know that many of you are like, well, you know what, Ashley, I don't really know what to do. Okay, I have an ex, I'm dealing with this, I've been through multiple toxic cycles. This is what I know. I don't have anybody. I'm lonely. What do I do? Okay, that's a good question. So let me tell you what you can work on right now to try to be able to overcome the toxic cycles. So now it's the time, and I know that this sounds wonky, but hey, no time like the present. I mean, you're stuck at home. You're in self-quarantine, right? We're having some interesting times here in this world, okay? So the first thing I want you to do is to make some time for you. One of the things that you've overlooked this whole time is the value of you. You're lonely? What about you? I mean, what about thinking about some of the stuff that you can be doing and learning about yourself? You don't even know yourself that well. You know that other person better than you know you. And the interesting thing of why we bring them back into our life is they become this distraction, okay? When we bring someone into our life who's got some issues, everybody has issues, but who has a lot of issues, okay? And so you bring them in and their issues are way bigger than your issues. At least that's how you see it, right? They distract you from working on you. So all of a sudden it's like, God, I got all these issues I got to deal with. So-and-so's got all these issues. I'm trying to help them. They don't see their value. I'm trying to save them. I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that. And see, that's how we get into the savior complex. Okay, we get there because their problems look so much easier to deal with than our own. Okay, and the greatest thing about having somebody around that's kind of toxic in this pattern is they have a lot of problems. And so there's a lot of things that we can fixate on about them and never look at us. Okay? It's one of the biggest things that happen. The self-help industry is full of books about how to deal with so-and-so, how to deal with their problems, how to deal with his problems, how to deal with that. But what about how to deal with our own issues? Okay? All these relationships are drama. They're diversion tactics that we have actually created. They are self-sabotaging behaviors that we have created so that we're actually not hitting our own self. We got somebody else verbally abusing us, okay? So it makes it okay because it's not actually us doing it. But it really is us doing it. We allow that person in our life to divert us from what we need to be doing, and that is learning about us, understanding who we are, having an identity. What do you stand for? Who are you? What matters most to you? What do you love about life? What do you can't stand? What are the things that you will have in your life and you won't have in your life? And really start thinking about that stuff, because a lot of us are just fragments of an individual, right? There's parts of ourselves that we know, but there's a lot of things we don't. A lot of it's based on fear because we're scared to learn about ourselves. What if we find something we don't like? Okay? What if we find something bad? Well, I'm here to tell you, you're not going to find anything really bad. I mean, you might find some stuff that you overlooked, and you're going to find some really cool glimmers of awesome reality. But I think that the fear of knowing what you're going to find is so much greater than what really actually happens. I mean, once you start taking the baggage out and you start looking at things and why you made choices, it starts making sense. And you start to be able to understand why you chose that chaos, okay? We have to understand why we choose the patterns. And a lot of it goes back to our childhood, right? We're used to the chaos. We're used to the drama. We're used to these unhealthy cycles and family dynamics. And we begin to realize that we've been codependent for a long time, right? And that's the way that we were raised. That's how we learned to be. But we can't change those codependent ways about ourselves until we actually understand where they came from. And we have to have self-control to stop falling back into the trap of chaos, right? Codependency, toxicity. And so think about it. This is the perfect time to make a change. There's a lot of people that have stopped drinking during this time of being at home and shelter in place. Many people have taken up, running, walking, doing lots of cool things, painting. And I know that some of us are overwhelmed about a lot of things around us, but we can make major significant changes. So what if your change that you work on is realizing the unhealthy cycles in your life and not bringing it back, and be able to understand, why did I choose this cycle? Oh, okay, it goes back to the way I was raised. How does that happen? Why do I do this? Why do I feel abandoned in these situations? Start understanding you. Very powerful. Why do we have to worry about what so-and-so's issues are? right? They need to worry about their own issues. We need to let our ex worry about their own stuff, and we need to take care of us. Can you help them down the road? Sure. Can you help guide them? But we can't guide someone until we really understand ourselves, right? It's like being sober from cocaine for a week and then being like other people's sponsors. It doesn't work that way, okay? You need many, many years of sobriety under your belt to even begin to be a sponsor for somebody in AA or NA, okay? So think about this. Why don't you begin to sponsor yourself and start working on how do I work over this codependency? What can I learn about myself? What are some things that I can do in this moment to really get some clarity and understanding of why I go back to that and why I want to distract myself? Start journaling on this. It's the perfect time to begin to end this toxic cycle so that the rest of this year and the rest of your lifetime, you can begin to find relationships that actually are positive and pleasant and that actually build you up and you build them up. Why continue to waste our time? Why continue to waste your time? Because that's what toxic relationships are. They keep us in a cycle of not being able to progress. We're in that cycle. We're not able to see clearly. We can't make changes. We get distracted. It causes us harm. I hope this video has helped you, and I know that many of us are going through a lot of stress in this uncertainty, and I totally understand it. But the last thing you need is stress from a toxic relationship adding on top of this uncertainty, okay? The more you can understand yourself and your identity, the more you can gain some traction and understanding in this time of disruption. If you haven't already, please share this channel with your family and friends. Subscribe to the channel. And also let me know some of the things that you're doing right now to work on you in this situation, okay, to avoid those toxic cycles and to be able to really understand those toxic cycles. Put those in the comment section below. I want to understand what you're going through, as well as some of the things that you've done to overcome this challenge in our life. Because remember, we're the ones that can change our life. We are so intelligent and so smart that we go into these relationships to divert us from what we need to be doing. Okay, so that's one of the biggest things I want you to remember. It's a manipulation tactic that we've created. These toxic people don't just find us. Okay, you know when people say, I think they just find me. You know what I mean? I must be a magnet to all these toxic people. Okay, well, you know what? You're finding them and they're finding you. So remember, it's a two-way street. You're not a victim. You're actually going after them too, okay? So start realizing what you're looking for. Once you start getting on a healthy track, all of a sudden other people on healthy tracks, they start looking at you as well. And that's how you meet a healthy person. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And don't forget, even in this time of uncertainty, to live your true life.